Now that you have the descriptions of the level of performance on the 2-point rubric and have seen how the guide papers for this question define what types of work demonstrate the understanding required for each level of the 2-point rubric, we will use this information to score the 5 practice papers for this question from 8th grade. If you find that your scores are not accurate, it is important to consider why. Once you're able to identify how the practice papers connect to the guide papers, your accuracy will improve. For this section, you will need the Grade 8 Short Response Sample Question Practice Set. Practice Paper 1 is a score point of 0. This response is incorrect. The incorrect dimension for length is determined in terms of n, 3 minus 2n. The perimeter equation to solve for n is incorrect. 3 minus 2n plus n is equal to 60. The student only accounted for 2 of the 4 sides in the equation they wrote, and it was solved incorrectly. Additionally, only the incorrect, physically impossible answer for the width is given. Practice Paper 2 receives a score point of 2. This response answers the question correctly and indicates that the student has completed the task correctly using mathematically sound procedures. The dimensions are expressed in terms of W and are identified over here. They are used appropriately in the equation for the perimeter. The equation is correctly solved for W. The student doesn't show exactly what was done at each step of the equation, but the next step indicates what has happened. The absence of calculating 19 does not detract from the level of understanding. Under the previous rubric and scoring policy, even though this response demonstrates a thorough understanding, it would have been scored a 1 because the required bridging step is not shown. The bridging step policy was removed. Multiplying 11 by 2 and subtracting 3 is a grade 8 mental arithmetic computational fluency skill. Practice Paper 3 receives a score point of 1. This response shows only partial understanding of the mathematical procedures in the task. The length of each side is correctly determined in terms of x, and the perimeter equation is appropriate, resulting in the correct value for x. However, the value given for the length is multiplied by 2, rather than being substituted back into the initial expression for the length, 2x minus 3. Therefore, only the width dimension is correct. The absence of units does not detract from the demonstrated level of understanding. You can see in the student's work that the length has been changed to 19. However, the value recorded on the answer line also needs to be a 19 for the student to receive full credit. Practice Paper 4 receives a score point of 1. This response demonstrates only a partial understanding of the mathematical concepts. The dimensions are correctly expressed in terms of x. X equals width, 2x minus 3 equals length. However, the perimeter equation is also incorrect. 2x minus 3 plus x is equal to 60. 2 sides instead of 4 are added together. The equation written is correctly solved for x, and the value of x, 21, is used in the expression for the length, 2x minus 3, to determine the length's value. Practice Paper 5 receives a score point of 2. This response answers the question correctly and indicates that the student has completed the task correctly using mathematically sound procedures. The fact that the student did not define the expressions for length and width did not pose a concern in this response because the rest of the work indicates that the student understood how those expressions related to the dimensions. The perimeter is divided in half and then equated to the sum of the expressions for the length and the width. This is an appropriate mathematical procedure for completing the task, and the final dimensions are determined correctly. This concludes the training on the practice sets for the 8th grade 2-point rubric. The next section of the scoring training will explore the 3-point holistic rubric.